Let us continue with the nervous system once again. So yesterday we talked about how far the impulse is being conducted across the synapse. What are the different types of inhibitors? For example, there is a hexachloride which normally inhibits a colloid esterase enzyme, the one responsible for the movement of what is called acetylcholine. And even we have some of the neurotransmitters are acting as inhibitors, one glycine and also just gamma aminobutyric acid. Now let's proceed towards the central nervous system, the various components of the central nervous system. You know that we have two different components of the nervous system, one central nervous system, another one peripheral nervous system. And in the central nervous system, we have the main component which is present in the mid-central axis of the body at the top, namely the brain. You know that it is the main coordinating center of the body, which receives information from different parts of the body and integrating all these informations so that actually the activities have been worked out in a well synchronized manner. That's why it's actually acting as what is called the command and control system. It is acting as what is called a command and controlling system, receiving information, integrating and coordinating all these activities together. Now, generally speaking, it controls various voluntary activities of the body, even just actively functioning of various vital organs, the human behavior, etc. And also the balance, namely the equilibrium of the body. In addition to that it is also responsible for processing the different kinds of sensory functions, namely the vision, hearing, speech, memory, intelligence, emotions, and also thoughts. It is a main center for all these things. The hearing, speech, vision, the memory, intelligence, thoughts, all being controlled and coordinated and processed by this system, namely the brain. Now, you see that the brain is placed inside the cranial cavity, the brain box, well protected within the skull. In addition to that the entire surface of the brain or both brain and spinal cord covered with some connective tissue membranes, they are all together called as meninges. There are three meninges covering the total central nervous system. The outermost one is called as dura mater, which is lying close to what is called the periosteum of the skull. It is normally thick in nature, double and also non-vascular, no supply of blood vessels. The middle one is called the arachnoid membrane or simply called as arachnoid. It is very thin and also slightly vascular. The innermost layer is called as pia mater, which is in very close contact with the surface of the brain, which is the thinnest one and also richly vascular. So the outer thick, middle thin and also inner thinnest one, and the inner thinnest one is somewhat actually vascular in nature, richly supplied with the blood vessels. So these are all together forming what is called the outer covering of the brain, protecting the brain just in the form of loose connective tissue or simply connective tissue. And just between the arachnoid membrane and the pia mater, there is a space what is called subarachnoid space. There is a space what is called subarachnoid space, which is filled with cerebrospinal fluid, which is being present between the arachnoid membrane and the pia mater. Subarachnoid space filled with fluid, what is called cerebrospinal fluid, acting as a shock absorber. Now, totally speaking, the human brain is broadly divided into three distinct regions: the forebrain, the midbrain, and hindbrain. The forebrain includes cerebrum and diencephalon. So the diencephalon once again being divided into thalamus and hypothalamus. So thalamus and hypothalamus together called as diencephalon. The midbrain is actually formed of four lobes, hence called as corpora cortigemina. Then the hindbrain, which is being formed of pons, then cerebellum and medulla oblongata. So normally the midbrain, the pons, then medulla oblongata together form the brain stem, holding the cerebrum. Midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata together constitute the brain stem. Now let's see about the forebrain, which is also technically called the prosencephalon. It consists of three major divisions, what I mentioned earlier: cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus, and both together called as diencephalon. both together called as diencephalon. Both together called as diencephalon. So out of the total brain, the cerebrum forms a major part of the brain. About 2/3 of the brain is formed of cerebrum. And actually it's about only just the weight, if you are weighing about 1500 cubic centimeter in its volume and weighing about 1500, just what we can say the grams, or we can say 1.5 kilograms, more or less equal to the weight of the liver. So the volume of the brain is about 1500 cubic centimeter. The weight of the brain is about 1500 just actually grams, or 1.5 kg. The weight ranges from that is male to female. In the case of male it is about 1400, in the case of female it is less than 1400. That's why I given the average weight of the cerebrum about 1500. Now cerebrum, it forms a major part of the human brain, I mentioned already. It's formed of two cerebral hemispheres or two equal halves. The two equal halves are actually joined at their base by means of a tract of nerve fibers, a sheet of nerve fibers, a very peculiar character of all mammals. That is particularly in the case of placental mammals, what is called corpus callosum. It's found only in the case of mammals, not found anywhere else in the animal kingdom. So the two cerebral hemispheres are joined together by means of tract of nerve fibers at the base, by means of what is called corpus callosum, a characteristic feature of all mammals, particularly the placental mammals. It is well developed, that is absent in all other animal groups. So if we are taking the brain, it is being formed of outer grey matter which constitutes what is called the cerebral cortex, and inner white matter which constitutes what is called the cerebral medulla. So the grey matter is normally formed of cell bodies, and actually they are concentrated and in the grey matter region giving, so the cell body of what is called actually, because the axons are white in nature, that is why the cell bodies are grey in color. When they are accumulated in the cerebral cortex, the outer surface of the cerebrum, they are giving grey color to the cerebral cortex. So the inner region is called as actually cerebral medulla, which contains white matter. In the white matter, here and there we can have collection of cell bodies which together form what are called nuclei, which are called nuclei. So the word nuclei referring to nothing but collection of cell bodies found scattered here and there just in the medullary region or in the white matter. So the cerebral cortex contains, you know that one, the motor areas controlling various muscular activities, sensory areas for the perception of various sensory stimuli, and also the integration and also for interpretation. And also in addition to that one, we have some association areas. These are neither sensory nor motor. So in the cerebral cortex, we have motor areas, sensory areas, and also association areas. Now normally these areas are responsible for smell, the olfactory sense. Then we have auditory sense, namely the hearing, sight, vision, voluntary movements of skeletal muscles. So normally if you have actually each cerebral hemisphere, it is formed of four lobes apparently. Frontal lobe, that is front, then temporal lobe laterally, parietal lobe forming the roof, and occipital lobe at the rear end. So the hearing actually formed at the superior part of the temporal lobe. The smell normally found just, also speech found just in the lower part of what is called the cerebral cortex of the frontal lobe. And also we have areas for controlling the motor activities found in the frontal lobe, and the vision areas found at what is called the rear end in the occipital lobe. Now the association areas also, because they are responsible for the integration of the various activities and also for the recognition of the various activities. So the association areas are responsible for intersensory associations, memory, and also communications. So each specific areas, the primary areas, have adjacent association areas. For example, if you have vision, the vision area or the visual area has association areas which helps in the recognition of all those impulses perceived by the brain. And that is actually the functions are recognized, then only they are being coordinated and controlled by the main areas. So the association areas are mainly responsible for intersensory associations, integrating the various associations of the sensory functions, memory, and also communications, communicating the impulses from one part of the brain to another. Then I mentioned already the inner part of the cerebral hemisphere contains myelinated axons, that is why it becomes white in color. See, in the case of grey matter, we have the outer cerebral cortex which contains only the cell bodies of the neurons. The myelinated axons having what is called the myelin sheath, they are found in the white matter in the cerebral medulla, giving white color. Now the second part. So the cerebrum is a major center for voluntary activities. The frontal lobe controls motor activities, the hand skill, eye movements, etc. That is what is called eye rotation, hand skill, eye movements, head rotation, etc. Then the parietal lobe is concerned with the sensory reception and other associations, and they are together formed as sensory area. Then the occipital lobe, the rear end, is concerned with the visual area. Then we have the auditory area, just normally formed. The superior part of what is called the temporal lobe. We have the speech area, the smell area, all found in the cerebral cortex of the frontal lobe. So anyway, normally just the cerebrum is concerned with a number of activities. Now the thalamus, a part of the diencephalon. So it is a major coordinating center. So normally, actually not only for sensory and also for motor signaling, the various impulses from various parts of the body are passing through the thalamus. They form actually synapse with the specific nuclei of this center. The thalamus is normally mainly made up of grey matter. So it is a major coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling, receiving the information from the receptor organs, conveying the same towards the cerebrum, as well as actually relaying the information received from the cerebrum to different parts of the body. So normally these are all areas having some specific centers having nuclei for just forming a synapse with the motor impulses as well as with what is called the sensory impulses. And in the diencephalon region, I mentioned we have thalamus and hypothalamus. This thalamus is the largest part of the diencephalon. It is formed of mainly grey matter. So normally this region influences mood and general body movements in response to, for example, emotions, strong emotions, when a person is in fear or when a person is in anger. Such strong emotions create certain body movements, for example, tremor in the body, then shaking of the body, all being performed because of the thalamus. So the thalamus is responsible for influencing the mood and the general body movements due to strong emotions like anger, fear, etc. So as a result of these two emotions, we have the body movement occurs, tremor of the body, shaking of the body, shivering of the body, all being normally because of the effect of thalamus. Now hypothalamus. And actually the thalamus lies at the upper end and the hypothalamus lies just below the thalamus, at the base of the thalamus towards the downward part where you have possibly the pituitary gland is present. So the thalamus is present above and where you have nearby the pineal gland is present, and the hypothalamus is present at the base of the thalamus where you have actually the presence of the pituitary body. Now it contains actually the major part having centers for thirst, appetite, satiety center to stop the process of feeding, feeling full. Once a person feeling full, and we have to stop the process of eating, and that is being done by what is called satiety center. So it contains a number of controlling centers for thirst, that is when a person is actually in hunger, and also when once the stomach is filled with food, once a person is feeling full, and that also controlled by a center what is called satiety center. So it is a center for hunger. That is called appetite center. It is a center for satiety. Once a person is feeling full, he stops feeding, and that is called satiety center to stop the feeding process. And also it controls what is called thermoregulation. That is what is called the body temperature. And also regulation of sexual behavior, and also express certain emotional reactions. For example, excitement, pleasure, fear, anger, and motivation. So it is simply we can say it is a center for appetite, a center for thirst, a center for satiety, a center for thermoregulation, a center for sexual behavior, a center for emotional reactions like excitement, pleasure, fear, anger, and also just we have motivation. And along with this one, we have also another center working with this one, that is what is called limbic lobe or limbic system. We will discuss later, along with hypothalamus. The same functions, namely the emotional expressions or the emotional reactions, the sexual behavior, also controlled by another system, what is called the limbic system or limbic lobe, which is working along with the hypothalamus. We'll see later. So not only it is a center for thirst, appetite, satiety, then sexual behavior, and also various expressions of emotional reactions. This region also secretes certain hormones, and these hormones are called hypothalamic hormones, neurosecretory hormones that control the activities of pituitary gland. So it contains what is called neurosecretory cells in addition to the nerve cells. These cells secrete hormones called hypothalamic hormones or releasing factors or inhibiting factors which control the activities of namely the pituitary gland through these hormones. So in addition to that one, there is a small nuclei called mammillary bodies present in the hypothalamus, which are normally involved in olfactory reflexes and emotional responses to odor. When a person is feeling a sense of aroma or any just a pleasant food smell, and there is a change in the facial expression, and that facial expression is exhibited by what is called hypothalamus because of the mammillary body. So it is nothing but a small nuclei, a collection of what is called the cell bodies, which is involved normally in olfactory reflexes, sense of smell. Accordingly, there is a change in facial expression, and also emotional responses. There is a change in facial expression according to the pleasant smell or the bad smell. Accordingly, you are showing expression in the face. That is because of hypothalamus. So don't forget that one, the question is related to thirst, hunger, that is thermoregulation, sexual behavior, and emotional reactions. Now here we have to see the main part, what is called the hypothalamus. I mentioned already this region is called the thalamus region, and this part is hypothalamus, the green part. And below which only we have the pituitary body, which is connected to the hypothalamus by means of infundibular stem. Now this part, actually this region is called, somewhere you have this thalamus, and this green part is called hypothalamus. It has a number of centers. So water balance and stress, there is nothing but thirst. So according to the availability of water in the body, normally it is stimulating the body to take water. So when there is a stress for what is called just thirst, at times it is normally making the body to consume more water. It is also having the center for hunger. This is the center for hunger. And also the sexual behavior, what is given here is nothing but the reproduction. It also controls what is called thermoregulation. The body temperature is regulated according to the situations because of the hypothalamus. And also it is concerned with the sleep-wake-up cycle. Sleep-wake-up cycle. The circadian rhythm, and also we'll be studying later under what is called, that is one of the glands, the intermediate lobe, the one which secretes melatonin hormone, or we can have, for example, the pineal body, which secretes some secretions which is responsible for the rhythm, the biological rhythm. So likewise, it is also concerned with the sleep-wake-up cycle. It coordinates the sleep-wake cycles and integrates activities with the other parts of the cerebrum. Then also it is connected to the pituitary gland through the infundibular stem, and that one just controls the activities of the pituitary gland through its secretions in the form of hypothalamic hormones. Now this is the center for satiety. Once a person is feeling filled with the stomach, so you wanted to stop feeding, and that impulse or the stimulus is given by this area, what is called the satiety center. Now this is another just actually diagram showing the different parts. And now you see, I mentioned just it is being divided into the frontal lobe, and we have the lateral one, what is called the temporal lobe, and now this is what is called the superior part, what is called the parietal lobe, and this one, the rear end, the occipital lobe. And we have just some system I mentioned actually. So the gyrus, you know that one, anterior cingulate gyrus. So we have on the surface of the cerebral cortex some shallow grooves called sulci, and elevated parts what are called gyri. So we have gyri, just the elevated parts found in the cerebral cortex. Now in addition to that one I mentioned already, we have what is called a deep limbic system. deep limbic system. So, the innermost region of the cerebral hemispheres and also a group of associated deep structures together form what is called the limbic system or the limbic lobe. So, the deeper parts of what is called the cerebrum, the cerebral hemispheres, the inner part of the cerebral hemispheres, and associated group of deep what is called the inner regions together form the limbic system or the limbic lobe. And I mentioned earlier, it works along with the hypothalamus to control the sexual behavior, the emotional reactions, for example, the excitement, the pleasure, anger, fear, etc., and also motivation. The same functions performed by hypothalamus along with, but it is not involved in the case of thermoregulation, thirst or hunger or even satiety. It is concerned with what is called the emotional responses or emotional reactions and also the sexual behavior. So it actually gets concerned with sexual behavior, emotional reactions and also motivation along with hypothalamus. It does the work. Now this is not the part normally we can have. Now this part is a cerebrum and now this is cerebellum, this is pons and medulla oblongata. These three structures together form what is called the hindbrain. We have normally the midbrain is present somewhere here, formed of actually 4 lobes. We'll see. So the cerebellum, pons and medulla oblongata together form what is called namely the hindbrain. We'll see the structure later one by one. So this is another structure just showing for impressions to you. So now you see that one, this is the nerve sheet connecting the 2 cerebral hemispheres, what is called corpus callosum. And we have just on the dorsal side there is a gland, pineal gland. On the ventral side we have the pituitary gland, which is actually connected to the hypothalamus. And now this part is a thalamus, what thalamus, and this part is a hypothalamus. We have the pituitary gland connected to the hypothalamus, and the pineal gland is placed dorsally in the diencephalon region concerned with some secretions. We will see the function of pineal gland under endocrine system. Now this part is called the midbrain. This part is called the midbrain, and then we have the whole structure is the hindbrain. Cerebellum, pons and medulla oblongata. These are the different components. Now this is outer surface of the cerebrum formed of grey matter constitutes the cerebral cortex. So go through the diagram. I have given 2 or 3 diagrams for your reference. So once again we want to go back to the limbic lobe or the limbic system. What I showed, it is nothing but the inner part of the cerebral hemispheres and also a group of associated deep structures. A group of associated deep structures plus the internal structure or the inner parts of the cerebral hemispheres form a complex structure, and that is called as a limbic system or the limbic lobe. And now I mentioned already we have a group of associated deep structures. What are the associated deep structures? Like for example amygdala. This is one structure present inside, and also hippocampus. So the hippocampus along with the corpus callosum responsible for lateralization, the coordination of the functions of the 2 cerebral hemispheres performed by these structures also. So anyway, the inner parts of the cerebral hemispheres and a group of associated deep structures called what is called amygdala and also hippocampus, and together form a complex structure what is called the limbic system or limbic lobe. So these are all the associated structures along with what is called inner part of the cerebral hemispheres, amygdala and also hippocampus. I mentioned earlier the hippocampus normally coordinates the activities of the 2 cerebral hemispheres along with corpus callosum. Now what is the main role of this limbic system? What I mentioned along with the hypothalamus, I mentioned it is involved in just the regulation of sexual behavior, and also you see the expression of the emotional reactions like anger, fear, just we have also excitement, pleasure, etc. and motivation. So these are the functions of hypothalamus. Along with the hypothalamus, these structures also perform such functions. In addition to that one, some structures in the limbic system responsible for integrating the activities of the 2 cerebral hemispheres, mainly the hippocampus, along with that is corpus callosum. Now midbrain, mesencephalon. So the midbrain normally is located between the forebrain and hindbrain. Specifically speaking, it is located between the thalamus and hypothalamus of the forebrain and the pons of the hindbrain. Anyway, it is situated between the forebrain and hindbrain, specifically between the hypothalamus or thalamus of forebrain and the pons of the hindbrain. So if you're taking actually the midbrain, the dorsal portion of the midbrain shows 4 swellings. And these 4 swellings together called what is known as corpora cortigemina. So there are 4 mounds we can see. 4 swellings also called as 4 mounds. 4 swellings. The dorsal portion, not actually the ventral portion, the dorsal portion of the midbrain consists of 4 swellings or the mounds. And these mounds together form corpora cortigemina. So there are 2 dorsal and 2 ventral. Accordingly we can say 2 superior colliculi or mounds. The colliculi are also called as mounds, swellings. Colliculus means swelling. So there are 2 colliculi which are found superiorly. They are called superior colliculi, and there are 2 inferior colliculi. So altogether there are 4 colliculi or mounds together form what is called the midbrain or corpora cortigemina. Once again, this is again the brain structure before reaching the functions of the colliculi or the corpora cortigemina. This is another section of the brain showing correctly see the various components. We see that one, we have the meninges, outer dura mater, then middle arachnoid and inner pia mater. And just below the arachnoid membrane, we have a space, subarachnoid space filled with cerebrospinal fluid. And normally, that cerebrospinal fluid is also present in the cavities of the brain. The cavities of the brain are called ventricle. Then we have thalamus on the upper part, and then pineal body dorsally, and this is occipital lobe, parietal lobe, frontal lobe, then we have the lateral lobe also. And now this part is the hypothalamus, and connected with this is the pituitary body by means of infundibular stalk. And now this is the pons, and this is cerebellum and medulla oblongata. And also within this one, just what is called, there is a reticular formation of brain stem, particularly medulla oblongata. So there is a reticular formation of brain stem. That is, here it is given reticular formation, that is medulla oblongata. So the reticular formation, this is the medulla oblongata, reticular formation of brain stem. This is what is called the reticular formation of brain stem, a network connecting, that is a midbrain, pons and also medulla oblongata, and that is called reticular formation of brain stem. So this is another picture for clarity. You have to go through the diagrams, different diagrams, you can see the different structures. And also the functional areas of human brain we can have. So I mentioned already the frontal lobe, then we have the parietal lobe, then we have, this is what is called the temporal lobe, and this is occipital lobe. Now the frontal lobe is concerned with motor functions. We have motor cortex, premotor cortex, etc. So this is what is called the eye movement, head rotation, and also there is eyeball movement, etc., all being controlled by this motor area. It is also controlling the voluntary movements of the skeletal muscles, and this is what is called the speech area, what is known as a Broca's area. I will tell you more about that one. And again in the frontal lobe we have the olfactory area, the sense of smell. And this is a superior part, of what is called the temporal lobe, concerned with auditory sense or hearing. And the occipital lobe is concerned with what is called the vision. This is called the visual area. And we have the language, memory and body awareness all being present only in the case of the parietal lobe. And now we can also perceive the sensation from various sense organs, for example mainly from the skin, cutaneous sensations concerned with the touch and pressure, and this is for actually sensory area. The rose color one represents the sensory area concerned with the touch and pressure, and also for cutaneous sensation. We also have the taste area just nearby, what is called the auditory area, just below or at the lower end of the frontal lobe. So actually we have in this area just nearby the occipital lobe, in the association area, what is called a face recognition. So one can normally recognize the face of different persons because of actually the memory. So the memory areas are present nearby what is called the body awareness, language area, mostly in the parietal lobe, just near the occipital lobe. So these are all the different areas concerned with the functions. So these are all simple things. Again another picture showing the different lobes of the cerebrum. We have the frontal lobe at the anterior end, the parietal lobe at the posterior end, a parietal lobe forming the roof, then occipital lobe at the posterior, and temporal lobe laterally. Now coming back to the functions of the midbrain, we talked about the functions of midbrain so far, just along with some pictures for different structures. I have given different diagrams to see the different, actually the structures in what way they are organized. Now what are the functions of that is midbrain? I mentioned we have two superior colliculi and two inferior colliculi. The superior colliculi are involved in olfactory reflexes. Sorry, I made a mistake. Visual reflexes. Suppose when you are just listening to the lesson, all of a sudden, just there is lightning somewhere near, you are turning towards the direction. This is what's called visual reflex. Or even on hearing a sound, you are turning towards the direction. This is what is called the visual reflex. Particularly something is going on nearby, automatically you are turning towards the direction. That is called the visual reflex. It is also responsible for controlling eye and head movements. So when you are listening to a lesson, all of a sudden when you are just hearing a music or someone is walking along the side, then you are turning towards that one. That is what is called optical orientation. The eyes are focused on that object, and so also the head is moving towards the direction. That is why it is brought about by the superior colliculi. This is what is called control eye and head movements. Optically, it is called optical orientation, focusing the eyes on an object. Then aid in visual tracking of moving objects. Imagine that you are watching a badminton or just even what is called just a tennis. The ball is moving between the two courts. You are sitting in the middle. You are not moving, only the eyes are moving towards the direction, to and from motion. So the tracking of moving objects, or while watching cricket, when the ball is going above the boundary line for a sixer, then your eyes are moving towards that one without moving your body. This is what is called simply visual tracking of moving objects. So it helps in visual tracking of moving objects like the ball movement or any movement without moving your body. So all these functions are performed by the superior colliculi, whereas the inferior colliculi are involved in hearing process. The superior involved in visual reflexes, optical orientation, aids in what is called tracking of moving objects, whereas the inferior colliculi are involved in hearing process. Now let us go to the hindbrain. So the hindbrain is actually called as rhomencephalon. It is being divided into what is called metencephalon and myelencephalon. The metencephalon includes pons and then cerebellum. The myelencephalon includes medulla oblongata, and both together rhomencephalon. So rhomencephalon, myelencephalon, just metencephalon, myelencephalon. The metencephalon includes pons and also cerebellum, and the myelencephalon includes the medulla oblongata. Now hindbrain, I mentioned earlier, it comprises pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. So what is the role of pons? It consists of actually a group of nerve fibers, or we can say fiber tracts, nerve fiber tracts, which form a bridge between the two cerebellar hemispheres, and also it interconnects the cerebellum with the different parts of the brain. So pons, it's also called pons varolii, and this pons is nothing but actually a tract of nerve fibers joining the two cerebellar hemispheres and also interconnect the different parts of the cerebrum with this cerebellum. And also this region is called the relay center. It relays information from the cerebrum to different parts of the body, receiving the information from the cerebrum and relaying the information to different parts of the body. And you know that one, we have the breathing center. The breathing center is normally found what is called in the medulla oblongata. In addition to that one, we have a coordinating center for breathing, coordinating the expiratory and inspiratory centers of medulla oblongata. That is what is called pneumotaxic center and apo or aneustic center. Not apo, aneustic center. So we have, that is what is called pneumotaxic center, aneustic center, and these two are found mainly in the pons region, and that help in coordinating the breathing performed by the what is called the expiratory center and inspiratory center of the medulla oblongata. So the main area for respiration controlling center is located in the medulla oblongata, but the coordinating center of the respiration, namely the expiratory and inspiratory centers functions are coordinated by pneumotaxic center and also aneustic center or area, and these two areas are found mainly in the pons, helping in the process of respiration along with medulla oblongata. So this is the area from which we have the 5th, 6th, 7th and 6th sections of 8th cranial nerve originate. The 5th cranial nerve, 6th cranial nerve and also 7th cranial nerve, and a section of 8th cranial nerve. It is nothing but the auditory nerve which arises from, that is what is called, which originate from the pons. Now cerebral nerve. Now this region is normally responsible for controlling the voluntary movements of the body and also concerned with actually the maintenance of posture and balance. While walking, while swimming, the balance is maintained, the posture is maintained because of the cerebellum. Its main function is normally muscle coordination, that is muscle tone. The frequency of muscle tone, the coordination of muscle tone is brought about by what is called the cerebellum. It controls the voluntary movements of particularly the skeletal muscles and also maintains the body balance and also what is called just the posture of the body. When a person is walking and also swimming or cycling, when all functions are being performed, the posture and balance is maintained because of the cerebellum. If you remove the cerebellum, the person shows what is called actually uncoordinated motion. The decerebrated animal, normally if you remove the cerebellum from the rat or any other animal, there is no coordination between the muscles of the body. They are exhibiting some sort of what is called penguin movement. Now medulla oblongata. So the gray matter of the medulla oblongata contains a number of reflex centers, and those centers regulate what is called, for example, the blood pressure, the heart rate, even for example the gastric secretion, your salivation, the vomiting, sneezing, coughing, etc. Breathing. So all centers are located in the medulla oblongata. It is a major center, important center. If anything happens to the cerebrum, nothing would happen to the body. The person feels only unconscious. If anything happens to the medulla oblongata, immediately death occurs because it has centers for controlling the vital activities of the body like breathing, heart rate, swallowing. So all being controlled by this one. Then brainstem. What I mentioned earlier, what do you mean by brainstem? What are the components? The midbrain, the pons and medulla oblongata together forms the brainstem. Now we have to know some of the important facts related to brain. What do you mean by silent areas? So these are all the areas which are present in the cerebrum, which normally regulates your intellect, your memory, your foresight and also imagination along with your. So the parts of the cerebrum or the areas of the cerebrum which control your memory, your imagination, your intellect, just your foresight, that is foresight, what will happen in future, the memory. So intellect, memory, foresight, imagination and mood all being controlled by these areas. These areas are working silently without any expression outside. Hence these areas are called as silent areas. Areas for mood, that is memory, imagination, foresight and also your intellect. Then electroencephalogram, just like ECG, we have EEG. It is an instrument to actually normally used to record the electrical activity of the brain via electrodes connected to the skull. So normally the neuronal cells exhibit some kind of electrical waves, alpha, beta, delta, theta. These are the 4 waves. If these waves are normal, the person is normal. If these waves are actually moving away from the standard values, then some sort of epilepsy, then we have the man syndrome all being happen to occur. So anyway, it is an instrument used to record the electrical activity of the brain via electrodes connected to it. Okay, and this instrument was used first in 1929 by Berger. He was the first person used EEG. Now refractive period. So this is a period when there is no conduction of what is called impulses taking place. So we can say simply a period of what is called complete inexcitability. Period of inexcitability. There is no excitation of the nerve fiber. There is no conduction of impulses between the depolarization and repolarization. So anyway, the period of complete inexcitability, that means when the nerve fiber is not stimulated, between what we have the depolarization and repolarization process, and that is called the refractive period. So there is no excitability, there is no conduction of electrical impulses along the nerve fiber between the polarization and depolarization. This is what is called the resting period or the refractive period. Now Wernicke's area, normally found in the cerebral cortex in the forebrain. that is particularly the frontal lobe, just in the frontal lobe. And this area is responsible for understanding what is called the written and spoken language. We have also some sort of disorder, Wernicke's encephalopathy, a kind of disorder caused by thyroid secretion, suppose because of Hashimoto disease also, Korsakoff's disease. These are all related to what is called thyroxine secretion. Thyroxine secretion sometimes causes what is called Wernicke's encephalopathy. So this is an area for understanding what is called the spoken language, and also there is a written language. Then Broca's area. So it is also located in the cerebral cortex or the motor cortex, concerned with actually just you see the coordination of coordination of the muscular activities concerned with the speech. So this area coordinates muscles and those muscles which are involved in speech. That's why it's called as Broca's area, otherwise called as speech area. Now these are all some of the facts related to the brain. Some of the facts are just like limbic system, Wernicke's area, and also Broca's area. Now let's pass on to the second part of the central nervous system, what we can have the spinal cord. So the hindbrain, namely the last part of the medulla oblongata, continued behind as a spinal cord, which passes through the foramen magnum of the occipital bone. So normally it is enclosed in a passage, the one which is formed by the neural canal of the successive vertebrae. It is about normally just it is about 45 cm long, elongated and cylindrical in nature, which is accommodated in the neural canal formed by the successive vertebrae. So normally it extends down up to the first lumbar vertebra. It extends only first lumbar vertebra, where it tapers to form a point, somewhat swelling region, cone-like, that is called conus medullaris. So where it tapers to a point, it ends in a point more or less cone-like, a swelling called conus medullaris. So don't forget, it is about 40 cm long. It extends only up to the first lumbar vertebra, and beyond that we have the neural canal is filled with what is the spinal nerves, and also another filament structure, what is called filum terminae. So anyway, it extends down up to the first lumbar vertebra, where it tapers, it extends actually where it tapers to a point. That point is more or less cone-like, hence called conus medullaris. Now this conus medullaris, the conus medullaris is followed by a fine filament of connective tissue which runs up to what is called the coccygeal region. That filament structure which follows the conus medullaris, which is running up to the coccygeal region, is called filum terminae. So it starts from the conus, what I mentioned earlier, and runs up to the coccygeal region. So if you make a section, actually if you observe actually the entire spinal cord, it has a dorsal fissure which is shallow in nature, and a ventral fissure which is deep in nature all along the entire length of the spinal cord. A dorsal fissure which is also called as what is known as anterior fissure, and a ventral fissure, this is what is called the posterior fissure, and a ventral fissure also called as anterior fissure, which is normally so deep when compared to the dorsal fissure, just a shallow groove running all along the entire length of the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord exhibits two swellings, one at the brachial region in the forelimb region, another one just in the lumbar region, just near the hind limbs. One is called brachial swelling near the forelimbs, another one is called lumbar swelling just in the lumbar region near the hind limbs. There are two swellings, one brachial, another one just a lumbar swelling. The brachial swelling is present near the forelimbs and the lumbar swelling is present near the hind limbs. So if you make a transverse section, it shows a central canal filled with the cerebrospinal fluid, which is nothing but the continuation of the fourth ventricle of the medulla oblongata. We'll see about the ventricles later. Now, if you observe the structure, the spinal cord is formed of an outer, what is called the white matter, and inner grey matter. Normally, the grey matter contains cell bodies, then just we have the dendrites and also non-myelinated axons. And if you are taking actually the grey matter, it is arranged more or less in the form of H. The letter H, it is H shape, having what is called the horns, named the dorsal and ventral horns. So the grey matter forming the center, in the center of grey matter we have a central canal. The grey matter is actually from cell bodies, dendrites and also non-medullated axons. The grey matter is arranged in the form of letter H, having dorsal and ventral grey horns. Now the great horns normally divide the white matter into dorsal, ventral and lateral now bundles what are called funiculi. Altogether there are 6 funiculi. The dorsal and ventral grey horns divide the white matter into dorsal, ventral and lateral funiculi. Now actually we have specific nerves or specific functions are attributed to what is called the funiculi, which are 6 in number. So dorsal 2, ventral 2, lateral 2. So the fibers of dorsal funiculi are sensory. The fibers of ventral just funiculi are just actually motor. The fibers of lateral funiculi are motor and sensory. So the fibers of dorsal funiculi sensory, the fibers of ventral funiculi motor, then this the fibers of lateral funiculi just both sensory and motor. And these fibers, actually these are all the bundle of fibers, nerve fibers are connected to the brain. Now this is the structure showing, for example, the cervical enlargement, and now this is what is called the lumbar enlargement. There are about 31 pairs of spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord. Cervical of 8, thoracic of 12, then we have lumbar 5, sacral 5 and coccygeal 1 we'll see, and then what is called just the spinal nerves where they form the plexus, the cranial nerve and spinal nerves, let's see later under the peripheral nervous system. I'll conclude with this one, what is chorda equina. I mentioned already spinal cord extends only up to the first lumbar vertebra. And normally before emerging out from the intervertebral foramina, normally the spinal nerves extend back. The spinal nerves, particularly the lumbar and sacral nerves, before emerging out from what is called the spinal cord through the intervertebral foramina, the sacral and lumbar nerves extend, the sacral and lumbar spinal nerves extend back along with the filum termini and normally in the form of thick bundle of fibers, giving the appearance of a horse's tail, hence called chorda equina. So anyway, the horse's tail or chorda equina is formed by the bundle of nerve fibers, namely the spinal nerves of sacral and lumbar region along with the filum termini to look like what is called just a horse's tail, and that is called chorda equina. It is nothing but bundle of sacral, lumbar, spinal nerves. You see that one chorda equina. Now these are all the nerve fibers along with the filum termini looking like what is called as a horse's tail before emerging out from the, this is what is called intervertebral foramina through which only the nerves are emerging out. So now this part is a conus medullaris, this is a spinal cord, and now all the structures together constitute chorda equina. A bundle of spinal nerves of lumbar and sacral region looking like a horse's tail and hence called chorda equina. Now this is actually the diagrammatic structure. You see the spinal cord shows an outer white matter and inner grey matter. In the center of the inner grey matter we have a canal, central canal filled with the spiral, what is called the cerebrospinal fluid, and we have, this is the dorsal grey horn, ventral grey horn, and then we have the lateral grey horns. Likewise also we have what is called the white matter. So this is what is called posterior funiculus or dorsal funiculus, and this one is ventral funiculus and also lateral funiculus. So accordingly dorsal, lateral, ventral on each side 3, dorsal funiculus, lateral funiculus, ventral funiculus. This side also we have dorsal, ventral, lateral funiculus together constitute what is called simply the white matter, and the dorsal funiculus is normally sensory, the ventral funiculus is motor, the lateral funiculus is in the form of sensory and motor. Okay, so I would like to conclude up to this level. We'll proceed further about the reflex action normally conducted by the spinal cord. We can see the conditioned reflexes and also acquired reflexes, and also we can say unconditioned reflexes, etc. the normal reflexes in the next class. Okay.